There are things we see hundreds of times in our lives without ever really questioning them. The stones under train tracks are a perfect example. Whether you're at a station, a level crossing, you almost always see those sharp gray stones packed tightly beneath the steel rails. They're so familiar that they've become invisible. But as soon as you stop to think, the questions start popping up. Why isn't it just tightly compacted soil? Why not just pour a solid, sturdy slab of concrete down there for security? And if modern trains can hurtle along at hundreds of kilometers per hour, why is the entire system resting on something as simple as a pile of rocks? The answer, it turns out, is anything but simple. I bet the truth behind those stones will make you realize just how brilliant the human mind can be. So, welcome to The Daily Why, where we explore the fascinating side of simple things. Let's start with a simple fact. Trains are incredibly heavy. Their mass can reach hundreds, even thousands of tons. If you place that weight directly onto normal ground, the soil would compress, sink unevenly, soften after rain, and eventually lose its stability. When the ground deforms, the rails on top shift with it. They can sink, warp, or slide sideways. Even a tiny misalignment can cause the train to vibrate violently, make parts wear out faster, or even increase the risk of derailment. That's where crushed stone comes in, what the railway industry calls ballast. To understand why these small stones have such immense power, imagine the track structure like a multi-layered cake. On top, you have the two steel rails. Beneath them are the horizontal sleepers that keep the rails at the correct distance apart. And below that is a thick layer of ballast, thousands of sharp, crushed stones. This layer has a vital job. It distributes the massive weight of the train over a larger area so the ground underneath doesn't have to bear all that pressure at just a few small points. Because of this, the tracks don't sink deep into the earth every time a train passes by. Not only that, but this non-rigid structure gives the track system just the right amount of elasticity. Every passing train creates massive vibrations and shocks. So, this flexibility allows the tracks to absorb some of that energy instead of snapping under the pressure. Another interesting thing is that these ballast stones solve two other major railway problems: rainwater and weeds. If you put tracks directly on soil, a few heavy rains would turn the ground into a muddy mess, washing it away bit by bit. If you put them on a completely sealed concrete surface, drainage becomes a whole different puzzle to solve. Otherwise, water pools in unwanted spots, increasing humidity around the rails and metal parts, which can lead to rapid rusting and degradation. Meanwhile, a layer of ballast has countless natural gaps between the stones. When it rains, water can flow through the stones almost instantly and drain away. The result? A drier, more stable, and more durable foundation. And about those weeds. Ballast can't stop grass from growing entirely, but it makes it much harder. A thick, sharp, dry layer of stone, lacking fine soil, is a very hostile environment for plants. This is especially helpful because weeds aren't just an eyesore. In a railway environment, excessive plant growth can trap moisture, weaken the foundation, obstruct inspections, and under certain conditions, even increase fire risks. Of course, humans still have to clean and maintain the tracks periodically, but ballast helps buy time before things get serious. At this point, you might wonder, if it's just about distributing force and fighting off water and weeds, why not use nice, smooth, round pebbles? The answer lies in their shape. Round pebbles are like tiny marbles. When they vibrate, they roll around easily. If you placed tracks on a material like that, the foundation would be unstable, especially when the train goes fast or hits a curve. In contrast, ballast is usually made from crushed rock like granite or quartzite, which has sharp, jagged, and irregular edges. When packed down, these sharp edges interlock and lock together, creating a very stable structure that resists the sideways shifting of the tracks. As great as it is, not every railway in the world uses ballast. In some places, especially modern lines with very high requirements for geometric precision, they use a different system called slab track. With this type, the rails are set on precast or cast-in-place concrete structures. Slab track can be extremely stable, has minimal deformation, and is usually suited for high-speed lines or sections needing extreme accuracy, like in tunnels or on bridges. However, the initial construction cost is very high, and when it needs local repairs or adjustments, it's much less flexible than ballast. That's why it still hasn't completely replaced traditional crushed stone. So, is ballast perfect? The answer is no. Over time, the stones wear down, break into smaller pieces, and get mixed with dirt, sand, and mud. The ballast layer stops draining as well as it used to. The foundation holds more moisture, the structure becomes less stable, and the tracks degrade faster. This means ballast needs to be inspected, cleaned, tamped, and maintained regularly. It's not a flawless, permanent solution. However, it is still an incredibly sensible one. Its strength lies in its simplicity, efficiency, cost-effectiveness, and repairability. It is truly one of the most enduring technologies out there. And one last interesting thing I want to share with you is the origin of the name ballast. The term didn't actually start with railways. It comes from ships back in the day. It was the name for heavy materials like stones or sand loaded into a ship to keep it stable on the water. When railways were invented, people saw that the layer of stones under the rails did the exact same job of keeping things steady, and the name ballast stuck with us to this day. And those are the fascinating facts about these stones. What do you think about this topic? If you found this interesting and helpful, please give me a like and subscribe. If there's anything I missed, feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you so much. See you in the next videos.